Welcome, my dear students of class 12, to another class with me, your tutor, Atinyo Sekose. Today we have the writing section from your main course textbook. We would be looking at two topics, that is writing articles and filling forms. So you would find it on page 52, and filling forms you would find it in the next pages. So let's first discuss writing article. Now, we have been doing a lot of reading in our lessons here. We have read about poetries, about prose, about drama, and so on. And we have also been learning a little bit about drafting things in terms of writing and so on. Now, if you have noticed that writing is a form or a skill that comes only after reading. So I would suggest that you read a lot, and from the informations that we have gathered so far, try to make a point to write. So there are different types of writing, and what we are going to discuss here is writing an article. And when we say writing an article, we thought that that is only the job of the journalist or the reporters and so on. But this is also an art, a form of expression through writing. And that's why it is very important for you to read more before you do writing or drafting things, for that matter. So here is an example or an activity suggestion here. What I would suggest is that you also try to look up maybe old newspapers or even e-newspapers, if you can get your hands on it. Take a look at the structure or the form of an article, and that will really help you understand it better. So now let's move on to our text here. Why do we draft articles, or for that matter, why do we write articles? Articles are written the first thing is to inform people. And when we say people here, what kind of people, or for that matter, what kind of audience? Remember, our audience, we are writing this in order to cater to all kinds of people. So in that case, that gives us the idea that the language should be simple and creative as well. We would come to that in the next point here. So our first job is to inform, and in what kind of ways to inform? To inform people in a very interesting manner. To interest the audience or the readers, for that matter. So that is what we have here. So that is our prime objective. The main thing is to inform. So when we are to inform, what do we usually do or use? We use factual things. So we are supposed to give facts. And to interest people, how do we provide or write these facts in such a way that people will find it interesting to read? So that's when we come with the creative writing here. Now, how can we write creatively? That is again another question that we have. We can also use quotes to substantiate our point, and we can also use examples and so on. But make sure, I would like to point out that when we are using quotes, make sure that you are not using overused quotes or very cliche words. So that is one thing that we need to keep noted. So this is the objectives of our writing article. Now, the difference of writing article and the differences with the other forms of writing, such as essay, or paragraph writing, short story, and so on, or notice for that matter, the marked difference that we would find here is to do with the format. An article format is very simple. I would like to draw your attention to page 54, and there you would find a sample there and the format of an article. So we would discuss that now. So the format, as you know, everything has an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. So you can keep that noted. And under format here, the first thing that we have here is heading. And then it's up to you whether you want to put the writer's name or, for that matter, the reporter's name. So then comes the writer's name. First heading, under that you have writer's name and, like I said, the opening or the introduction. Now, under this, now you may be thinking that, yes, I know the format. If I can put the heading in this way, then the writer's name, I can come up with a fictitious name and write it in this way. But we get into trouble when it comes to introduction. So what should go into your introduction? Here is the tip here. Now, the purpose of this writing this article can be stated in clear, concise language. The language can be informal. Remember, in order to interest the people, language should be simple here. So in order to cater to all sorts of people, so that is why under introduction, the purpose can be stated in very clear, precise manner. So no need to worry about trying to use more, but I don't know, I don't have that kind of vocabulary. You don't have to think in that way. In fact, you should avoid, you should make a point to avoid elaborate words, because not many people will understand if you use such kind of words. So that is the case here. The introduction, after writer's name, opening or introduction, and then we have the body. Now, usually articles are written in, you would find that it is, some are short, some are lengthy, and so on. So it depends on the kind of topic that you are addressing. So under the body here, you want to connect it to the introduction, and then the body can have more than one paragraph. It does not necessarily mean that in one paragraph you write the introduction and it's over, and then another paragraph you just give the body and it's over. It's not like that. You can add as many paragraphs as you want, whether it is in the introduction section or the body. The problem here, or the main thing to remember here, is that it should be cohesive. In other words, it should be interconnected. One point should lead to the next point, and all these points should be the main focus of the article. So that is what we have here. Now, point number 4 here is the conclusion. So let's say that you have listed a few points and you have written it in 1 or 2, 3 sentences, and now you have the conclusion and you don't know what else to add. What do we do then? You have to sum up whatever you have mentioned in the conclusion, and you can also make a point to conclude it with, again, a thought-provoking idea. So that is what you can do here. And remember, in the conclusion, you can, when we say sum everything up, that does not necessarily mean that you repeat everything again, but in a different way or in a different language, you can also sum it up in a more precise manner, shorter version. So that is what we have here under conclusion. So this is the format. The article format is very simple. We will very quickly go over it one more time. So heading should be in the center, then writer's name, that is preferable. We have the opening, introduction, the purpose of that article, then the body. You can have as many paragraphs as you want. You can add quotes, examples, details, and so on. So then we have the conclusion here. And remember, we have already learned about power writing. I hope you would be able to apply that as well here. We have the pre-drafting section. In fact, pre-drafting, we have the organization, we have writing a draft, editing, evaluating, and revising. So you can also apply the same thing after you are done here. So that is what we have. Remember, the purpose of writing an article is to inform. The language should be simple and it should interest the readers, and you can have as many quotes and examples as you want. But keep in mind that the quotes must not be a very overused cliche quotes here. So that is what we have under article. Now we would move on to filling up forms. So under filling up forms, you would find it on page 55, and this is very simple. And you may be wondering, why do we have this? This is a very easy thing to do. And yet, you know, there are times when we are asked to fill up forms that is very lengthy, and we get into trouble making all sorts of silly mistakes. So these are some directions that you can use while filling up forms. Now, filling up forms is an everyday life situation here. You may be filling up the examination forms, you may be filling up forms at the bank, and so on. So when we do that, there are certain things that we should also know in terms of the language, the usage, that is technical usage. So that is what we have. Now, these are the main key points to keep in mind when filling a form. I'll very quickly read it out. Read all instructions before filling the form. Before you started attempting, that means, let's just say you have lots of spaces to fill it up, and then you look at the point number 1, and then you start filling it. If that happens, you may make mistakes. So before you start filling it up, make sure you read it thoroughly once, and then make sure you fill in all the details in the form and leave no space blank. Make sure you do not leave any space blank. I'm sure when you look at this kind of filling up forms, or forms for that matter, you would see all sorts of different kinds of blanks, or it may even be within a box, or maybe it is to do with a tick mark and so on. So make sure that you have done all that. So you need to check. Then check the form after filling it and correct any mistakes. Check the form after filling it and correct any mistakes. Now, in cases where you are to fill it up with pen and paper, sometimes some instructions are given, such as use only block letters and so on. But if you're just simply looking at supposing it is to do with name, and you just simply started writing your name in small letters, that would again be a problem. You would have to correct that later on, and it may also create a lot of inconvenience. So that's why read the instructions first and try to follow the steps accordingly, because filling up forms is very easy, but in a hurry, if we are in a hurry, we made all sorts of blunders. So that is the first thing. Then check whether all the forms, blank spaces, are being filled or not. And then again, you have to remember whether that blank space is for you to fill up or not. Now, that's when we would come to the dependent here. Under glossary of official terms, you would find here are some of the commonly used terms in forms. So point number 1 here is dependent. What do we mean by dependent? As it is suggested in your text, any person who relies on the applicant for financial support. So it is very clear. If any person, it can be you, who relies on the applicant for financial support. So that is dependent. Then the next one, we have the abbreviated letters here. NA, what does it mean? So NA here is not applicable. So if you notice that there is an NA and then there is a blank space, it is not for you to fill it up. It is usually for official purposes. Now, the third point, next of kin. So when we say next of kin, the closest relation, or the next person that you wanted to recommend. Or it could be a family member, it could be your father recommending the son, and so on. Then, fourth, office or office use only. As it is obvious, in some case, before the blank spaces, you would find office or office use only. So that's when these spaces can be left out as it is. It is not for you to fill it up. Then the last point here, title, prefix to name. Prefix to name, such as Mr., Mrs., and so on. In these kind of cases, as you can notice, it has got oblique. So what you can do is just simply tick. But if you have spaces for you to write again, you can put it as Miss Lily or whatever the case may be. So that is how you filled up the forms. And make sure, again, you check whether all the blank spaces are being filled or not. Check whether the spaces, blank spaces, are for you to fill up or not. And remember to follow the instructions first. Give it a good reading and then only start filling it up. So that is what we have under filling up forms. I hope you would take some time to do the next exercises. It is very easy and I hope you would also have fun with it. And on that note, we would be winding up today's class. Thank you all very much for joining me.